Greetings and salutations, TheKyllax here. I'm going to try something different. Why? Just because I feel like it. I feel like there are some things that people are kind of going to miss or whatever. I don't know. I just want to talk. You know what? Let's just start this over. Greetings and salutations, TheKyllax here. New patch coming out from Hi-Rez and Smite, and I want to talk about it. So that's all there is to it. We're going to start. We're going to come back to Aw Puch. Aw Puch. It's going to be fun to say. Kawaii Pop Bastet looks, kawaii, looks adorable. I will admit that I laughed when she said shushies, because that's just adorable. That's like my 5-year-old daughter saying shushies. If she said shushies. She doesn't say shushies, but maybe I'll teach it to her. The Voidworm Kokoken, along the lines of the same as the, the Voidwalker Amuzen Cobb skin. So that looks interesting and terrifying at the same time. Executioner Nemesis, you need to come up with a better name for her. I'll have to think about it. I just can't come up with something like that off the top of my head, off on the spot. Desert, I just almost called her Dessert Queen Circuit, Desert Queen Circuit, the tier 2 Circuit skin. She just had a new skin. It looks okay. I mean, it's like they took Circuit and Isis and kind of like mashed them together in my mind. I kind of get like a Elizabeth Taylor vibe from this. And for those of you who don't know, just go Google an image of Elizabeth Taylor when she was young and in her prime, because she was the Egyptian queen, and that Circuit looks almost exactly like her. Xbalanque NA, the SPL 2015 and Xbalanque NA skin, and the EU skin. Okay, look fine. One's red, one's blue. Yeah. Whoop-de-doo. You get to buy them with this new fantasy points or whatever. Okay. Interesting to me. I'm wondering whether or not I can't play on weekends, so I'm wondering whether or not I can put on that loading screen like before, or whether or not I actually have to like play games and stuff. Ironsmith Vulcan, whoop-de-doo, new card, don't care. New voice packs, nothing important there. Curse Voice Ward skin. So there's a new Ward skin. There's a whole bunch of new achievements. That's fine. I mean, Smite's a MOBA. It's not about achievements for me. Some of them are nice, but I'm not exactly going to go out of my way to get them. I'm not an achievement whore anyway, so it'd just be a nice little additional bonus there, I guess, for anybody that likes achievements, and not to downplay if you do. It's just not my thing. Season ticket. So the Smite 2015 season unlocked the new season ticket bundle. Received 2 XPL, season ticket loading frame, and access to the season ticket fantasy game. Every ticket purchase contributes $250 to the general prize pool for season 2 esports. So they're starting the Odyssey earlier now with the season tickets. So each week you'll make picks for which teams you think will win Smite Pro League matchups. Picking correctly will earn 20 fantasy points. Also earn 15 fantasy points for winning a normal or league Smite match while using the Smite. Oh, okay, so you have to win a match. So rip the dream for me anyway. I guess I can use it during the week when I can actually play. Earn additional rewards, Executioner Nemesis skin, and the Void Worm Kokoken. I think they said it was like the Void Worm, or the Executioner was like 1,000 points, and the Void Worm was like 500 points or something like that. Correct me in the comments below, because that doesn't exactly have their fantasy point cost here, or ticket cost here. Fantasy point cost. There we go. And else promotes the date and the time of the next Smite Pro League. The new UI looks fine. Looks all troned out, I guess. General gameplay fixed a bunch of issues. Nothing worth talking about there. Miscellaneous. Additional clan quest has been added. What they do? Enhanced integration. Will now only appear while the pedestal is loading. Soulstone. Alright, so items. Soulstone. So what this gives you is 20 magical power, 100 mana for 800 gold. Its passive is hitting an enemy with a basic attack, tears out and stores a portion of their soul. Each soul grants 4 plus 4 MP5 at 5 souls. Your next ability cast is at plus 30 magical power. I don't see this replacing Vampiric Shroud, but that's just me. The sustain plus the mana sustain from Vampiric Shroud is just too strong. If you're an ability mage, if you're an auto attack mage like Kronos or Aokwang, I could definitely see how this would be beneficial to you and might actually boost up early game for an auto attack mage like Kronos or maybe even Freya. So we might see some more ADC Freya coming out. Devourer's Gauntlets. So they reduce the base physical power from 30 to 25, increase maximum stacks from 60 to 75, reduce the physical lifesteal and the physical power. Basically, what this does is that it puts it on par with Bloodforge in a sense, and it also gives you more incentive to go for Bloodforge. I would have to check the item cost, whether or not they're the same, because if they're the same, if you're going to go for Bloodforge if you're trying to get an advantage early, because Bloodforge gives you that lifesteal like immediately, which is why you would pick it up instead of Devourer's Gauntlets, which you have to build up the stacks for, and now you have to build up the stacks even longer to get back to the same point that you were at before. So 15 stacks may not seem like that much, but realistically that's almost 3 mini waves of stacks, or 3 gods, of course. Frostbound Hammer changes more than that was needed for a long time now. They increased the health on the final Frostbound Hammer itself from 300 to 400. Yeah, so they want to make that more appealing for people to buy, because often people were just buying Heavy Hammer and that was it. They would just sit on Heavy Hammer the entire game because it was that good. And they also changed Heavy Hammer by dropping its health reduced from 200 to 100, and the slow is also reduced from 25 to 15%. So you will see this a lot less in your invades and in your conquest game invades. I think if you have like a built-in slow on your auto attack, you might see it, or some other built-in slow. Yeah, I think you'll still see it because the price hasn't changed, but it'll just be not as good as it was before. Heartseeker also has got a buff, and it dropped in price almost 200, 160 gold. Price difference is now the same as Doom Orb, and they increased the physical power from plus 25 to plus 30. I'm interested to see whether or not this changes the meta for hunters back to what it used to be, or if it's like, if hunters are going to go maybe double stack, they'll go Devourer's Gauntlets first, and then they'll go into Heartseeker next, just because of the drop in the price and the increase in physical power. We'll have to see just kind of like where the numbers end up as far as what is the most cost efficient. Heavy Hammer, I already talked about. Hydra Star, fixed a buff. Magi's Blessing, they increased the cooldown from 45 seconds to 60 seconds, which is pretty big, making CC even more powerful now. Plus with the recent buffs to it, where if you were using beads or if you were using channeling an ultimate that made you CC immune, that it didn't pop the bubble, so that made Magi's Blessing even better. Now this kind of nerfs it a little bit. Me personally, I'm never a fan of Magi's Blessing. I know how important it can be to avoid CC crowd control in Smite, and believe me, there's a lot of crowd control in Smite, but it's just never. I main a Guardian, so let me put it that way. I main a Guardian, so that's kind of where my perspective is coming from. I prefer to pick up something like Spirit Robe that will make me tankier, so I can sit in those CCs and take all those abilities and more often than not. So, and I'm a really bad assassin, so just take that with a grain of salt. That's why I'm saying this is not really that big of a change to me. I know for a lot of people out there, it's going to be a bigger impact. Reinforced shoes, health increase from 100 to 150. Okay, trying to make people buy it more often as opposed to cooldown boats. Reinforced greaves. That's reinforced shoes, reinforced greaves. Yeah, same on their Talaria boots. Huge change for Talaria boots because almost nobody picked them up. The additional movement speed was already there. 25 HP 5, I believe, was the same numbers as it was before. What's different now is each time, I'm going to read this, each time you hit an enemy god with an ability, you earn plus 50 experience and plus 30 gold. This cannot occur on the same god more than once every 90 seconds. So what is happening is they're trying to bring back more roaming. You'll expect to see Guardians pick this up, and then what I'm going to be calling, or what I'm going to label as the roaming boop. So since you can't proc this on the same god more than once every 90 seconds, you'll see a Guardian go from lane to lane, or into the jungle maybe. And they didn't even mention this, whether or not it was an auto attack or an ability, or at least I didn't hear it. But whatever, you'll go from lane to lane and you will boop. You'll just like smack people. And then you'll just be along your merry way. You just kind of walk into the lane and just be like, all right, get your 50 experience and your 90 gold, and then be along your merry way. Or excuse me, 30 gold. And plus you'll probably still soak up a minion wave while you're there. So this is an attempt to bring back the roaming meta. God balances, the fixed Athena stuff. Apollo, they increased the physical power from 36 to his base physical power from 36 to 40. His base physical power per level from 2.5 to 2.6. So 0.1 overall, it's a plus 4 to his base plus 0.1 times 20, which is 2. So 40. So like 6 physical power additional to him. I still don't see people picking him up just because his wave clear is just so bad. It's just punishable. He's kind of in that same spot as Xbalanque was in Season 1. So until they kind of buff or balance his wave clear, I don't expect this will change very much in people's minds. It will take a pro playing Apollo well in a match and split pushing like a champion before people realize that, oh yeah, Apollo is a pretty good split pusher, plus his in-hand attack damage can get ridiculous really fast. Excuse me. Aokwang. Aokwang got a pretty big change to him. The water illusion now automatically detonates at the end of its duration if Aokwang didn't manually detonate it. I didn't realize that it didn't detonate, so that's just a quality of life change. It's exactly like Loki's decoy detonate. It just automatically detonates. Dragon Call, this ability can now be activated in stealth without revealing Aokwang. That's pretty big. I know that was kind of one of the annoyances of playing Aokwang. Now, the big change to him comes into the King of the Eastern Seas. They increase the cast range from 15 to 17 feet. So you don't have to be as close as you were before. Before you kind of had to be like almost butt sniffing close, I would say it. Now you're just kind of a couple of feet away from butt sniffing. They increased the krill. They changed, it says increase the kill threshold, but realistically what they did is they changed it to 30% at all ranks. So at rank 1, 2, and 3 now it is higher than it was before, but at rank 4 and 5 it is lower than it was before. But at all ranks, so at level 1 it is at 30%. That's pretty big. I expect to see a lot of Aokwang, a lot more Aokwang coming out. And it also the other big change to his ultimate was that it now restores 10, 15, 20, 25%, and 30% of Aokwang's maximum health upon successful execution. Why? I don't feel like that was necessary at all. He got a kill, and then he would have to disengage. That's what Dry Bear and Kelly were talking about in the patch notes. Is like, well, we saw that Aokwang would get a kill, and then you'd have to use his dragon form to get away. Well, yeah, no kidding, because he had to go up close and personal. I just don't think like a heal was necessary on it. But okay, so with the changes to the kill threshold at 30% and the health, the only thing that changes by upgrading his ultimate now is going to be that health returned upon successful execution. So what you're going to end up seeing is people upgrading it once and then just bypassing it the rest of the time until they have to. I don't see 5% health return as being that great, especially on Aokwang, who's an assassin and already has a really, really low health pool to begin with. So why would I upgrade my execute, which when it doesn't upgrade the kill threshold, when I can just upgrade my dragon call, which does so much more damage. So that's what I expect coming up. Wheelix, Gravity Surge, tier knockups are now pullable. Wheelix. Okay, so Fearless. The Fearless combo and his offensive stance is now pullable, I guess. Bellona fixed a bug. I know a lot of people were calling for another Bellona nerf. Bellona's pretty strong. I'm not gonna lie, Bellona is pretty strong. I played her in the solo lane after. I never played her originally when she first came out because I knew she was OP as crap, and I didn't want to play. I don't want to play a god who I know is like gonna get nerfed into the ground. And she didn't get nerfed into the ground, but who was gonna get nerfed because I didn't want to get used to that skill set, that power realistically, and then when she did get nerfed, or when that god does get nerfed, I have to get used to it all over again. So I just bypassed all that and started playing her after the nerf. But she's still very strong. There are more than one occasion where I got double kills immediately off the start. Still very strong, level 1. I'd have to look at some of the numbers. I feel like she's more abusable now. And just people still aren't used to how to deal with her. Chronos. So Lotus Crown passive now works on Chronos when his 1 is activated because it's a self-heal. That's interesting. I don't see anybody picking up Lotus Crown on him just for that. Maybe if you want like a tankier Chronos. We'll see. Cupid, share the love, fix the description, Hebo, fix Denton showing off to the right on Hebo. Okay, so Denton is fixed. Kumakarna. Mighty On now applies a attack speed slow if enemies are woken early. So, wow. That is... that's actually pretty big, especially consider all the hunters and the way that the meta is now. It's all about the attack speed. So it's like Devourer's Gloves, Ninja Tabby, Iqval, right, or Executioner, and 3 of those 4 items, Ninja Tabby, Iqval, and Executioner, all 3 of them have attack speed on them. So something to counteract this attack speed meta is going to be Kumakarna. And they tried to do it, and you saw them try to do it, or I saw them try to do this attack speed debuff, or try to corral in this attack speed meta that we're in now with Medusa, but they automatically took that off of her sploosh. I call it her sploosh, or 2. And the epic uppercut also received. It's not a really. I think it's more of a buff than it is a balance. So 25% of the damage from this ability now happens on the initial hit, with the remaining 75% upon landing. That is big because I don't know about you. I played a lot of Kumakarna. I have them level 5, 6, I think. And nothing is more annoying to me than I see an incredibly low health enemy and I go to epic uppercut them just to kill them and they beads and they don't die because they take no damage whatsoever. The same could be said for Neja. You might actually see this happen with some other beadsable ultimates like Neja's ultimate or with Aokwang's execute. You might actually see them take some initial damage. I would keep a closer eye on this and look for something similar maybe in the next patch because this will get it into people's minds that, hey, why does Kumakarna get this but not Neja, or why doesn't Aokwang get this? So something to be on the lookout for. Mercury. Fix Mercury gaining full bonus from his passive from Teleria boots. Alright, that's just a bug fix. Neath. Neath is an ability-based hunter. One of the few. Medusa's kind of in that middle range. But anyway, I digress. Neath got a buff where they increased the base damage from her spirit arrow by 10 at the initial, and they increased the scaling from 80 to 90%. That's actually pretty huge for her. I don't see that changing a lot of people's minds, especially in the Pro League, because hunters are not about ability damage late. They're just not. You want to take a Neath late game versus an Artemis late game, or a Neath late game versus a Rama late game, it's still going to be the same situation. Yes, if Neath can get off some abilities on the Rama or on the Artemis, it's going to make somewhat of a difference. But at the same time, the Artemis is just going to be able to do much more damage to the Neath consistently over and over again with her in-hand auto attacks versus Neath, who's going to be able to do a spirit arrow every 8-10 seconds, whatever her cooldown time is. Osiris increased its base attack speed from 0.95 to 1. Fix showing 2 boots in the recommended list. Alright, so they fixed something. They increased its base attack speed from 0.95 to 1. I had to see how he falls with the rest of the warriors, but I don't think that's going to change a lot of people's minds either, which is kind of sad because I feel like Osiris is still pretty good. I haven't taken him into the soul lane myself, but I don't know. I just feel like he's still pretty good. It's just that he's fallen off in popularity in the meta. Sun Wukong got big buffs, or big buffs for him anyway. So looking at the Magic Cudgel gets increased bonus minion and jungle camp damage from 20 to 25%. Okay, so you might see more Sun Wukong supports. You might see some more Sun Wukong jungles, which we haven't seen in a long time. They increase the damage on Master's Will by 10. Just by 10 at all ranks. Okay. And 72 transformations increase the Tiger Sun duration to starts at 1 second now. That's actually pretty big for him. Yeah, so you might see more Sun Wukong jungles and Sun Wukong supports, so be prepared. That was all the rage. Sun Wukong. I remember many a time playing the Sun Wukong support. Wooler fixed issue. Jabalanque fixed an issue, so that's all the changes. Now talking about Aw Puch. My initial reaction to Aw Puch is he seems very counter. I mean, he's a counter healer, obviously, but that just seems like it. It seems like that's all he has. Hollow ground passive. Aw Puch closely attached. Walking over a decaying corpse. Aw Puch lowers the cooldown of Undead Surge by 2 seconds, restores 6% of his maximum health and 2% of his maximum mana. Decaying corpses last 4 seconds. Okay, so I'm assuming it only has to do with his undead surge, but I might be mistaken because if that has to do with like minions and stuff, that's basically like a built-in vampiric shroud. But I'm assuming it only deals with the corpses that he summons with undead surge. Speaking of undead surge, Aw Puch raises up 2 corpses from the underworld that surge forward, exploding on anything they touch when they reach maximum distance, or when Aw Puch reactivates undead surge. Plus 35% magical power, and slowing targets hit by 40%. That's a huge slow, especially at all levels. So that's a big slow. The corpses collapse after exploding, remaining behind. Okay, cooldown is 10 seconds. That's okay. I mean, scaling's not that hot. 90, 110, 130, 150, 170. Plus 35% of your magical power. It's not really all that great. It's kind of like, think new clay minions kind of tactics for it, because you're going to have to deal with the AI. You have to deal with the minion AI there. The corpse explosion. Aw Puch causes the target area to explode, dealing 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, plus 10% of your magical power damage. Causes any corpses in the area to explode, dealing 60, whatever, plus 25% of your magical damage. So again, think Nuwa making her minions explode. It's the same kind of kit, and right there anyway. And again, the numbers without a corpse there are nothing. It's plus 10%. That's nothing. I mean, you can have, let's say you have 1,000 magical power, which is entirely possible late game, that you're only going to get an additional 100 damage to corpse explosion at maximum level. You'll have 200 magical damage. So that's not a whole lot. That's not including mitigations or any defense like that. Fleeting Breath. Aw Puch throws a charm from the underworld, which awakens a decaying corpse that applies miasma to targets. Targets take 32 plus 15% magical power damage every second. Okay. After the duration, targets take an additional damage and are stunned for 1 second plus 0.5 seconds for each time they're healed by an ability during the initial duration. This is the one that I'm the most confused about. Awakens a decaying applies a miasma. Okay, so you need a decaying corpse that's there. So all of the stuff is built around his undead surge and the corpses. You can either pick it up or you can use it for fleeting breath. Definitely anti-healer ability, and that's where it's going to come into place, but it's going to be like a raw anti-heal. A Hercules is going to be a huge anti-healer for him to deal with. Raw, I can't think of Aphrodite. There we go. So Raw, Hercules, Aphrodite, Chalk would be another one. So he's going to be kind of that solo laner anti-tick heal, even more specialized. So instead of being just an anti-healer, he's going to be an anti-tick heal, but only with this ability. It's weird. Finally is his ultimate Aw Puch, Empty the Crypts. Aw Puch unleashes his army erase from the 9th hell. Swarm forward, deal 40, 50, 60, 70, and 80 plus 10% of your magical power damage to enemies they collide with, and apply 7% stacking slow for 2 seconds for a maximum of 8 stacks. Again, the numbers are just not, I don't know, they just don't strike me as that impressive. The scaling is just not that good. I mean, you look at some other mages, you see like 60% magical damage, or 80, 60%, 80%. I'd have to look at some of the numbers. And 40%, 50%. It's just much higher scaling than what Aw Puch is bringing to the table. What's big about the Empty the Crypts is the slow, because you think there's a 7% stacking slow for 2 seconds with a maximum of 8 stacks. So if you get caught in this huge ultimate, which is huge, for 8 stacks, you're slowed by 56% for 2 seconds. That's a pretty big slow. So Aw Puch doesn't bring a whole lot of hard CC to the table, unless Fleeting Breath automatically stuns for 1 second, which is, I guess, is okay as far as the stun is concerned. But he does bring a lot of slows to the table as well. So anti-healing, slow, supposedly a burst mage. I just don't see it in the numbers. But of course, you know, numbers don't tell the story, so we'll just kind of have to see how he plays. Anyway, that's going to do it for my very first attempt at an initial reaction to patch notes. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you actually learned something, or at least I brought something to your attention that you didn't think about before. And if you like the video, of course, like it. If you want to say, hey, TheKyllax, you're wrong, you're a complete idiot, put it in the comments below and we can talk about it. Please just constructively talk about stuff. I'm more than willing and open to talk to people about stuff. I am not infallible. I am not perfect. I am wrong about stuff. So if you want to talk about it, and if you want to correct me on something, then put it in the comments below and let's talk about it and correct it. And if you want to see more videos and more funny stuff, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Anyway, that's going to do it for me. Hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you in game.